Alright, I done spent the last 3 days trying to set up my aunt's funeral, and all these nincompoops keep messaging me on my phone, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, all over social media. What do you think about the Steelers? Should we get rid of Mike Tomlin? Get rid of AB? He asked for a trade today. We should have paid Le'Veon Bell. Ben needs to retire. AB fell off. He's not elite anymore. And Big Ben Roethlisberger sucks. He's all this other stuff. Why? Don't message me with that, man. I know football, you guys are, like, you need to make sure you go and buy some Vagisil or something like that, or go see your gynecologist. Maybe it's time for your pap smear, because you guys acting like a bunch of little girls, man. Seriously, if we really want to look and analyze what's been going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would say ever since Mike Tomlin has taken over, let's just look at the first 7 years of his tenure, all right? Because it was an up and down slope, but first you come in 2007, you win, 11-5? They ended up hosting a wild card game. They played against Jacksonville, David Garrard on the field. We had an opportunity to win the game. He converted on the third down. Ultimately, that's what led to our loss. Following year, we win Super Bowl 43. Next year, missed the playoffs. Next year after that, losing the Super Bowl. Should have been defensive pass interference on Mike Wallace. But nonetheless, we ain't gonna talk about that right now. I'm not salty about the game. Congratulations to Aaron Rodgers. You got yourself a Super Bowl. They won. Year after that, we got Tebow. Tim Tebow was riding on the plane of Jesus, and they made sure that we got baptized in his name. So that's exactly what happened. Nothing else that could be said about that particular game. 2012, we missed the playoffs. 2013, we start out 0-4, finish out the season, winning, I think we won 6, no, not 6, I think it was 8 of our last 10, something like that, and then we ended up missing the postseason. We needed some help to get in, but ultimately, whoever had to, it was something dealing with Kansas City, they had to make a kick. I think they ended up missing, but if Antonio Brown didn't step out of bounds on that miracle play against Miami, we would have probably been able to go to the postseason, but nonetheless, digress. The next year after that, 2014, this is when we start to really analyze what a Mike Tomlin team, this Pittsburgh Steelers team, has been. Because if you really want to be honest, and this is not even being biased, all right, this is just being an objective football fan. 2 of the past 5 years, the Pittsburgh Steelers should have represented the AFC in the Super Bowl. However, a lot of different things have happened, all right? There's been injuries, there's been, blown coaching calls, underperforming by players, but nonetheless, this team is far too talented to have not have a Super Bowl berth in the past 5 years. But let's just look at it. 2014, right? Finally, you return back to the postseason. But what happens week 17? Le'Veon Bell. My knee ran into the dreadlock powers of Reggie Nelson. What, was it a dirty hit? I believe it was, but nonetheless, you lose him, you go into the playoff game, Baltimore comes in, they walk into your house, they beat you. All right? Nothing else you could do. And if you knew the 2014 Pittsburgh Steelers season, it was pretty much Big Ben, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. That was the entire team. The defense was abysmal for the most part. But those 3 guys were able to carry us into the postseason. You lose one that's a pillar of your offense. It completely showed in the playoff game because I think we signed somebody off the street. I think, was it Tate? Was it Ben Tate who started running back that game? I can't remember. Whatever it wasn't DeAngelo Williams. Luckily, the next year we ended up getting him because Le'Veon was, he was returning back from the injury. Also, he was suspended in the beginning. What happens? We rallied around, DeAngelo Williams on the ground and the rest of our offense, and we played all right. Le'Veon came back, played against Cincinnati again. Perfect done got him, the dreadlock powers at the time. Now it becomes a psychological thing, because every time you play against Cincinnati, you got your running back getting hurt. Are they headhunting? Are they trying to take out our guys? But nonetheless, rallied around the players that we had there, made it back to the postseason. Did we, win the North? We did not. Cincinnati did. What did we do? Go to Cincinnati, and what happened? Big Ben and Burfict. Shoulder. He out the game. Getting carted off, people throwing a bunch of bottles at him. All right. It seemed that A.J. McCarron brought the Bengals back and looked like it was going to be victory, but then Cincinnati and Marvin Lewis coach teams found a way to Cincinnati and Marvin Lewis coach team their way out of a playoff win. Then what happens? Big Ben comes right back into the game after Landry Jones happens to throw an interception, which should have, sealed the game for them. Down the field, Antonio Brown, perfect done got him again. He out. But Boswell kicked through the uprights, good, going on to Denver. What happens? You're playing in Denver, no DeAngelo Williams, because he couldn't play in the playoffs. You had no Le'Veon Bell, because he was still, my damn ACL. And on top of that, Antonio Brown, he got a concussion, he can't play. What happens? Through 3 quarters, played phenomenal football. But we had a rookie man in the backfield, might I add. Happy Independence Day to the Haitians out there. But Fitzgerald Toussaint, I hope you're not having any of the carrot soup today. No soup jumu for you, because I've never forgotten when you fumbled out in Mile High, or I should say in South Park. What happens? Denver goes down the field. You give momentum to Peyton Manning. He will always make you pay. They kick a field goal. They score a touchdown. Now we're trying to play catch up ultimately. Peyton falls on the floor. We forget to touch this man down. He gets back up and connects a pass. I don't remember who it was, whether it was Emmanuel Sanders or something like that, but we should have touched him down, could have got the ball back. Ultimately, we did not. Denver went on to go and win the Super Bowl. We're going home. All right, you can make a case. Some injuries here and there. Back-to-back years, some injuries on teams that could have went to the Super Bowl. Nonetheless, 2016, this year in particular, we start out decent. For the most part, what happens? We end up losing 4 consecutive games after getting shellacked by the Eagles in week 3. All right, then we answered back in week 4. I can't remember who we played, but week 5 is when it started to go down the damn drain. All right, I can't whistle that well. So we played against Miami. Jay Ajayi over 200 yards on the ground. The following game, I believe we played against New England. But remember, Landry Jones started this game. Don't expect that man to deliver us to the promised land and get a W over the juggernauts that we've always had problems with. We lose there. Then we take on the Ravens, and I believe the Ravens defeat us in a very close game, if I remember correctly. Then after that, we took on the Dallas Cowboys, and it looked as if we were going to finally snap our streak at that point. But then what happens? You had Zeke run right through the defense, and through that time, the entire time, our defense has been absolutely terrible. But what do? We rally around the people that we got. We close out the season with the hottest quarterback in the league, because during the 2016 season, to close out the season, Big Ben was playing probably some of his best football of his career. The defense tightened all the way down. We won 10 consecutive games. AFC Championship, you saw the failure of the coaching of Tomlin defensively, and also Keith Butler got completely exposed because our secondary could not guard. We kept going out there and playing zone, and Chris Hogan had over 180 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns. Can't allow that to happen. Going home in the AFC Championship. Might I add, Le'Veon Bell, early second quarter or late first quarter. My groin. So now there's a bunch of questions about what's going on with the health. Might I add, you still had the recording on Facebook Live of Antonio Brown. He may have been doing it with his phone, so he's not really holding, a camcorder. He was holding it with his phone, recording in the background. So now you got some other locker room stuff going on. All right, so fast forward into 2017. What are we going to do about Le'Veon? He's not coming to training camp, but he finally shows up for the first game. We start out the season, all right, for the most part. I believe we were 2-0, then go into Chicago, and what happens? It's time for the national anthem. Are we going to take a knee? Are we going to stay inside the locker room? What are we going to do? Villanueva says, well, I have served my time. I'm going to stand outside. What happens? The rest of the team just standing there. Nobody know what they want to do. Everybody emotionally are all out of balance. What happens? Chicago goes and beats us. Mitch Trubisky, I don't even think he had over 100 yards through the air. I can't even remember if he was the one who was playing quarterback. Whatever the case was, they were able to run the football effectively all over our team. All right, week 4 came. I believe we regrouped. We got ourselves a W. Then we played against Jacksonville. Jacksonville came. Leonard Fournette took out his nutsack. The defense of the Jacksonville Jaguars took out their nutsack and rubbed it all over Heinz Field. And we got shellacked 30-9. Why? Well, you had some terrible play from Big Ben, some bad decisions. There were some tip balls here and there, but offensively, you're playing against the number 32 ranked defense against the run at that particular time. You only ran the ball 15 times. Doesn't make any sense. That's the players underperforming, and that's the coaches not understanding what the scouting report was coming in. All right? But what did we do after that? We rallied around our team. We won, I think it was 8 or 9 consecutive games, played against New England, and what happened? Came in there, but matter of fact, before I get to New England, let's just take a couple of looks of the weeks prior. I believe we played against Cincinnati in week 14 or Cincinnati in week 13, whatever the case was. Ryan Shazier, bam, here's a tackle. My back. So, psychologically, you just saw a man almost get paralyzed. What does that do about your entire defense when this man was the leader of your defense? It forces your defense to have to rally around the other guys that are on the team. At this point, the only people on the defense who were really performing throughout the entire season last year, it was really TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, who was a first-team All-Pro, and you had Hayden, who was doing all right, but he was ailing injuries the entire season. And for the most part, that was pretty much it. Vince Williams wasn't really Vince Williams that he was this year yet. So we had a struggling defense after we were surging and playing very well. At the time, because people don't really understand how good Shazier was. He was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate last year, up until he got hurt. The man was playing from interior linebacker outside of Kuechly and Wagner up until that point in the season when he got hurt last year. He was the third best linebacker in the league. And then he got hurt. But of course, you played against New England. What happened? You had yourself in a position to win. Going down the field, here's Jesse James, game-winning touchdowns. The referees, oh, it's a score. Wait, let's look at the review. Oh, it's not a catch. All right, whatever the case was, the referee says no, but this is where the Pittsburgh Steelers failed. Right before you had the Jesse James ordeal on the prior possession, you had the Patriots go 4 times to Gronkowski, 3 times prior to Dion Lewis going into the end zone for the score. Gronk for the 2-point conversion. That's 4 receptions on 1 drive, no adjustments being made. That's a coaching problem. They had to get that fixed. Now, here's where the thing starts to get a little bit tricky. Juju down the sideline puts us in a position to go. You get James into the end zone following the overturn call. Now, I believe it was 2nd and 10 from that point. We get another completion. We get ourselves by the goal line. We have a timeout. You can spike the ball. Do we do that? No. Do we use our timeout? No. What do? We got a fake spike trying to throw the ball to Eli Rogers. Intercepted. Why did this fail? Big Ben. I was going to say Antonio Brown. Big Ben. Todd Haley. Mike Tomlin. They didn't have any plays prepared. All right? Somebody was saying they're telling me to spike it. The other person saying, well, they're not telling me to spike it. People are not on the same page. Nonetheless, what do? You close out the season, get your wins, first round bye. Here comes Jacksonville. Offensively, you fixed the problem that you had. You were running the football effectively. You were throwing the football effectively. But what happens? You have 2 turnovers, which you know was probably going to happen. Fumble return for a touchdown. Interception, Telvin Smith or Miles Jack, whoever it was, but caught it by the sideline. Outside of that, the offense was moving the ball all day. Here's the problem. The defense did not show up. Blake Bortles, of all people, led 45 points on your team. Did you stop Fournette for the most part? Yeah, he scored a couple touchdowns here and there, but on the ground, he wasn't as hugely effective as he was the game before. But what was the difference? Blake Bortles using his legs. He converted on 3rd down. Defensively, we couldn't get off the field on 3rd down. Big Ben threw for 5 touchdowns, 469 yards. He was throwing all over the team. He was doing their job, but defense didn't show up. So yeah, we'll correct that next year coming. Here we are, 2018. Is Le'Veon Bell coming? Oh, nobody knows. Somebody better go to Heinz Field and go to Home Depot, drop all the bells on the field so everybody knows we really want Le'Veon Bell. Does that happen? Absolutely not. People thought he was going to show up to training camp. Lo and behold, he didn't. They thought he was going to report for the first game. He did not. We thought he was going to show up by week 10. He did not. All right, so that's a outside distraction going on already. Then you got Big Ben talking in the media, constantly on his radio show, calling people out, throwing people under the bus. And I ain't talking about Jerome Bettis. That'd be homosexual sex. We ain't talking about that right now. No, Michael Sam, we're not having that conversation. Michael Sam's not in my house. That would be a different sort of conversation. Now, what we're talking about here is we start out the season 1-2-1. We tied against the Cleveland Browns. Why did we tie against the Cleveland Browns? Well, you had 5 or 6 turnovers, whatever the deal was. All right, Boswell not making a kick in the clutch, and you played in terrible conditions, but I'm not going to blame the weather because this is football. All right, Pittsburgh always seems to start slow, but you left with a tie, not a loss. You should have beat them in their house. Nonetheless, you move on. Week after that, played against Kansas City. Offense started extremely slow with 21 points in the second quarter. We go into the second half. The defense is yet to get off the bus. We were playing at home. I don't know why the defense didn't show up. 42 points hung on your head. Played against Tampa Bay. In Tampa Bay. What do? Phenomenal second quarter. Phenomenal. Second half came in. Everybody came out flat. Tampa comes roaring back. Luckily, they weren't able to win. Pittsburgh gets their first win on the season. Week after that, defenses and the coaches don't know what the hell they were doing against Baltimore. John Brown wide open darn near the entire game. Joe Flacco an eternity to pass the ball. On top of that, the secondary could not cover a soul. So you couldn't blitz anybody because if you blitzed, people were going to be wide open. Pittsburgh couldn't play their form of football, and then bam, you find yourself 1-2-1. What do we do after that? 6 consecutive game winning streak. While you were winning games, did you hear any chirps in the media? No, because winning heals all wounds. You hear the old saying, time heals all wounds? Well, in football, winning heals all wounds. As long as you're winning, people ain't saying nothing. All right? Then you fast forward. What happens? You go to Denver. You have over 527 yards of offense, but people start to get a little bit selfish. I want to make plays look good on film. Xavier Grimble, let me try to run this person over instead of taking 1-2 step and going into the end zone. Fumble into the back of the end zone. Fumble going back the other way. Then James Conner, let me me just jump over this person, but I never played Mario effectively, so the ball gonna squirt out of my hand, going into the goddamn atmosphere, going back the other way. Big Ben, I'm going to bring the damn Steelers all the way down the field. Here we are inside the red zone. We going to give the ball to our running back? Absolutely not. Let's try to throw it. Interception. Game done. Following week, we play against Los Angeles Chargers. We up by 15. All right, what do? Oh, we don't make any adjustments on defense. Keenan Allen just rubbing his nutsack all over Heinz Field. On offense, we don't commit to the run game. Let's just get real soft and fall in love with the pass as long as we're not, it's not like we're winning by 15. Then, the following week, after we lose, because, we can't seem to, let me just close up the Charger game. We lose because we don't know how to stay on sides. We constantly find ourselves off sides. We couldn't get off the field on third down defensively. That's where our defense failed us, and the coaching failed us because we were not in the right spots. We weren't aligned in the right spots either. But guys were underperforming. Guys were undercoaching. Tomlin, I'm looking at you. Following week, we go to Oakland. Offense seems to have no problem moving the ball with Big Ben in the game. We tie up the game going into halftime. Lo and behold, what happens? Oh, well, Big Ben, my ribs. All right, he's back on the field. Is he cleared? Yeah, he's cleared. But yeah, we feel like the flow of the game is going well with Dobbs. Excuse me, Tomlin? Dobbs had the team moving the ball? Because I didn't see that. Then what happens? Oakland goes down the field. They take the lead. Big Ben comes right back in. He gives the Steelers the lead. All right, things are looking good. The defense can't get off the field. You got Derek Vehicle launching the ball down the field on probably one of the prettiest passes I saw all year. Catch inside the 20. Wait a minute. The defense failed us again. Offense comes back on the field. Big Ben takes him all the way down the field. Field goal range. Boswell. My leg. Screaming like Toad in Mario Kart. 3 consecutive losses. All right, bam. Going back home, taking on the New England Patriots. You win the game in the best football game you played all year. Going out to New Orleans, what happens after you done slayed the dragon in a position to win? Fake punt. Guys were not smart. Do I like the call? I still like the call. Would I have left the offense on the field? Whatever the case was, I like the call, but let me tell you something. When Dangerfield went into motion, and he was going, the person who was going along with him, he stopped halfway. So whether it's Roosevelt Nix or Jordan Berry or Mike Tomlin, when you recognize that, hey, call timeout, they didn't. Ultimately, we came up short. But I still agree with going for it. Why? Because you want to give yourself an opportunity to have the final drive on the game. Because if you give the ball back to Drew Brees after you punt it, and he methodically goes down the field and eats up the entire clock, you're not going to get another possession. What happened? Pittsburgh got the other possession. They were driving down the field, and then Juju Smith-Schuster fighting for extra yards. He played his heart out the entire damn game. In fact, the entire damn season, he happened to butter fingers on the floor. So now, our hopes of going to the playoffs are in the hopes of the Browns. You go, you take care of Cincinnati, and this is where we get to the current events. Antonio Brown in practice. What is he? Oh, he's a disagreement of a yard of a route with Ben Roethlisberger. Now he's upset. He needs some Vagisil. Something's going on in his vagina. Just leaves practice. So I'm all right. Okay, they say it's a knee injury. Biggest game of the season thus far up until this point, because it's a must-win. This man decides not to show up for anything, expects to come to the practice, or I should say show up for the game, and expects to play. That's not how stuff goes. Tomlin says, hey, you're not playing? All right, I don't know if it was him who made the call or not, but we'll say the head coach said he's not going to play, but they downplayed it and swept it under the rug. You win, but ultimately the Browns couldn't get it done. Now, you're not in the playoffs, and here we are now. I believe it was about 30 minutes ago, I was informed that Antonio Brown asked for a trade. Am I taking this seriously? No, he probably spoke out of emotion. This is what I'm getting at, all right? Over the past 5 years, we have had an extremely talented team. However, there's been many different factors that have cost us games, all right? Whether some has been coaching, some has been underachieving players, others have been outside drama going on. The bottom line is this: people need to get their heads out of their ass and really reevaluate what they play this game for, all right? Because you don't play this game for individual statistics and all the other stuff. You play to win the game, as Herm Edwards once said. You want to hoist that Lombardi. So you want to know what the cure to all of this is? Winning. That's all it is. That's all it is. Because when the team went 13-3, you didn't hear a bunch of infighting. That did not exist. But when you go 9-6-1 and you're one of the most talented teams in the league, and your defense finally figured out how to play man coverage, now you find yourself like, wait a minute, we should be somewhere else that we're not right now. Ultimately, guys gotta figure out to win games, and that's all it is. All right, all the other distractions going into this year, the only thing that's going on right now is AB. I would hope not to hear anything else during the offseason, but I'll tell AB this: Figure out what sort of player you want to be. Do you want your legacy to be that of Randy Moss, that of Terrell Owens, or that of Chris Carter, some of the most talented receivers in NFL history? They have any Lombardi trophies on their fingers? Well, you can't fit a Lombardi trophy on your finger. You got any championship rings on your finger? No, none of them do. They got Hall of Fame rings though. But you hear people talk to Boomer Esiason the same way. Well, then again, he's not in the Hall of Fame. You hear people talk to Dan Marino the same way they talk to Joe Montana. They question Marino's career. You hear everybody talk about the greatest of all time conversation. It seems like Marino doesn't get a mention anymore because he don't have that hardware on his hand. All right? You got people talking about Eli Manning's career in comparison to Dan Marino. The disrespect. Do you want to be one of those receivers? No, you don't want to be. So you got to figure out what sort of receiver you want to be. All right? For all the Steelers fans losing their mind, calm down. These are grown men we're talking about here, all right? There's going to be some divas here and there. People just need to figure out what they want to do. That's what it comes down to. I don't believe anybody should be moved. You come back with this exact same team and they play football the way they did the 2 weeks between New England and New Orleans, this team can go undefeated? Probably not, because, they figure out a way to lose games. This team can go to a Super Bowl and win. This year, honestly, was the year. This was the year. The AFC playoffs, it's all a toss-up. There's no team where you can say, they will win every game. It's literally a toss-up. The NFC, the only thing that seems to be guaranteed is New Orleans because they don't lose at home in the postseason. Outside of that, the Rams have looked up and down since the second half of the season. The Cowboys look great when they're playing at home and as of late, but hey, you never know. It's still the Cowboys. You got the Eagles who done snuck right back in, but you don't know what's going to do. This season, there was no clear cut. This was the year, and we cost ourselves the year. So going into next year, we just got to figure out what sort of team we want to be. Because I say don't blow up the team, because if you do blow up the team, are you willing to have 5 years to where when you're the bottom of the league, you're the laughing stock of the league and rebuild from there? Or you want to use the surefire talent that you got right now? Top 5 line, Hall of Fame QB, a decent running back in James Conner, best receiver in the game in Antonio Brown. A lot of people talking about he was falling off. Let me point something out to you. He led the league in touchdowns. He was number 11 in receiving yards. He was top 10 in receptions, number 10 at that. Let me tell you, he played 15 games. On top of that, the second complimentary receiver being Juju led the team in receptions and in yards. If this man fell off in order for this man to have production and he's still top 10 and everything, what does that say about him? More importantly, because people happen to be, prisoners of the moment. Let's not act like AB was not number 1, 2, or 3 in every single receiver category over the course of the past 5 years. All right, stop being prisoners of the moment. People over here talking about Adam Thielen's a top 10 or a top 5 receiver in the league. What? Deshaun Watson, top 5 quarterback in the league. What? Don't just ignore. Consistency is what makes greatness. Stop being prisoners of the moment. I don't take any player seriously until I've seen you do it for 3 or 4 years consistently. All right? You could have a phenomenal beginning to your career and then all of a sudden you're down the drain. Stop talking with people who don't know football, man. Stop getting over emotional over stuff. Stop. The season gonna start in September. Stop losing your mind messaging me all this other horse shit when I got other things going on in life. That's how I feel about the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. Just get your head out of your ass. Focus. That's it. If they focus and they all have one, they operate under one accord with one goal, being the Lombardi Trophy, and they don't, steer off of the damn path, the road of trying to go to the stairway to climb to 7, they can win. Just stop letting all these outside, media attention get to you. That's all it is. People need to wake up, look themselves in the mirror, and figure out what sort of man they want to be. That's all it comes down to. That's all it comes down to. Because the team knows how to win. You've seen it. They know how to win. I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned. That's all it is. And that's the last thing I'm going to say about it until some other news come out. But I'm not really going to address the Pittsburgh Steelers until the end of the Super Bowl. We'll talk at that point. But as of the Steelers right now, that's it. That's it. Stop overreacting. Stop messaging me about it. All right? That's it. That's it. I got a funeral to plan.